It's now time to wrap things up with the Outside 2020 closing session. Please welcome back to the stage Timothee Sallin, Deirdre Irwin, and Dr. Patrick Bohlen.
Thank you so much to Nikki Freed for her message of support. I think it's great that we're getting perspectives from all different levels of government, local government, the water management districts, our state government, Florida Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and that's combining with the other perspectives that we had today with land developers, Chris representing landscape architecture, Patrick representing UCF and Pierce, University of Florida. And really there's been many more people who have been a part of this discussion as we've kind of built this collaborative to come to today. And I'm sorry that we've had to change a lot of things with going to a virtual event, and we haven't been able to bring everybody together the way that we had originally imagined, where we would all be in one room and maybe going out to projects. But this is, I think, it's been a great start. And I've been on the chat all day interacting with you guys, and I see that there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of enthusiasm, and I want to discuss, this afternoon with our final session, how we take this forwards so that this isn't a one and done, flash in the pan, because I really believe that these ideas are resonating, that there's more and more interest, more and more timeliness, where we can speak about sustainable landscapes and people don't look at us sideways. And I think this is the moment to act. The proverbial iron is hot. So Patrick and Deirdre, thank you guys for joining me on this final panel. You guys have been with me since the very beginning as we worked on putting this collaborative together. My question really is, where do we go from here? It's been a great day, big ideas. We have a purpose now, but what are the actions? What are the next steps that we see in our organizations individually? So maybe I'll start with you, Patrick. You can tell us about what you're thinking about for.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you so much for organizing, coming up with the original idea to have the Outside Collaborative. And I do think there's a flip side to the meeting, which we wish we would have had, that could have brought people together, because I think we'd have a lot more sidebar conversations. But at the same time, having the remote virtual world that we've switched to, very often we can engage more people. So we have more people engaged at the meeting than we would have if it had been live. And then you do have the sidebar conversations through the app and whatnot. So I think, we're all learning to live in a world where we have to be more virtual, and I think this has been a very effective forum, and I hope that the folks that have been watching have been getting a lot out of it. I know I certainly have. One of the things we had some plans for the original meeting, which I know there's workshops lined up and whatnot, that we would actually go visit with groups who were interested in seeing real things on the ground, real examples on the ground. I think there's a great opportunity, and I know you're planning to do that, to have these kinds of workshops, not just in one location where we might have had a meeting, but around the state, where folks in different regions will have an easy way of engaging through site visits to see some of the things we're talking about. At UCF in particular, we have moved into a lot of requirements due to the fact that we're a B Campus USA, where we have to build habitat plans now for the campus. Cities can actually get that certification as well, which would enable them to participate in that program. We are also really trying to, part of that is changing some of our landscape palette to embrace some of these other species. Another thing I'd really like to work towards is developing and understanding some guidelines for maintaining some of the species that maybe people aren't familiar with using. So we do that a lot through experiential work at UCF, just by trying to grow some of these things. And what would really be nice to see, and like to collaborate with people on that, if we could, maybe through IFAS, who has a great extension service. There's a lot of information about plants. There's not always a lot of information about, if you're going to take on something new, what's the best way to manage it. So I think there's a real opportunity to develop kind of management guidelines. We also do a lot of the natural lands management on our end. And I've really seen that wild-urban interface for people who manage lands like Seminole County and Orange County to do a better job of working together and collaborating on helping people to understand, that these sites are there for people to visit and learn about Florida ecosystems, because one of the things we talked about is many people in Florida don't really understand Florida ecosystems because they're new here. And once you open their eyes to them, they see things that they didn't see before. It's not just plant blindness, it's kind of an ecosystem blindness. So having those areas where people can visit that are in urban areas and interact with, to me, is key to having them become advocates for that. Mm-hmm. So if you want people to become advocates for native plants, for example, if they understand native plants and the native ecosystems and how that all fits together, they're the people who are going to be the advocates. So I think there's a real need for that. We're an educational institution, so obviously we train students. We try to train the next generation, so we're also trying to create people who will have that skill set, who can go out into the world either for a higher degree or to go out and get a job in the world. That's a lot of what we do is to educate. But I hope that we can do more public outreach on some of these specific issues that we related, both in developing specific outreach, social media and outreach educational material that people can access through the internet. We'd really like to do more of that. And then also following up on the collaborations that have come out from this meeting. One of the developments that they talked about at the meeting that Pierce has been working on as well, and Sustany and Canaan that he also worked on. That's very close to UCF, and so I really think there's going to be an opportunity for us to engage with that property once it develops and for us to get involved in that. There's some great partners. They brought together people, some of whom have kind of a national awareness. And if we can create and contribute to some of those successes and also help in the learning about those things, I think that's another great way that we can collaborate on projects like that. And of course, you have things going with the ground cover trials we just talked about and other things where I think UCF is in a good place to be a good collaborator. I don't know what's
I'm going to need your help on this.
Yeah, we're in a good place
to. I think that's the fascinating thing about this collaborative is that we're suddenly in touch with a lot of resources. Mm-hmm. Certainly, I feel that way. Yep. Because I was talking to you about helping me support the city of Groveland, which is our hometown, and they want to redo their landscape codes. Yeah. There's a resource for that.
Yeah, and I think that's what I observed when we all started talking about doing this, when you pulled together this group and we all realized everyone had so much to offer. And I know we all attend a lot of conferences. It might be FNGLA or Irrigation Conference, but this effort seems to be looking forward and bringing in all of these topics. And what I observed in the planning was we had to clarify, what did we even mean by sustainable landscaping? Forever in Florida, water conservation has been important. We've had water-wise landscaping, Florida-friendly landscaping, and now there's this new and different where we're taking in biodiversity is now crucial to how we move forward. How can we lower impacts? And then I think we all realize the education of especially newcomers to Florida on why it's important, and if we don't do it, we're kind of in trouble with our water quality, water quantity, and our bees and the like. So what I think this collaborative could do is, first of all, keep talking and keep getting ideas, and just putting all the people in a room post-COVID where we can actually come up. That's when I see us being most creative and coming up with ideas. And being really careful not to think there's one perfect solution that's a new certification program. It's got to be everything from the big box stores to the plant growers to IFAS doing education to UCF. It's everyone doing it a little differently.
Yeah, it's very eclectic, right? There's, I think, a lot of initiative that can come from a lot of different places. In fact, I think about sustainable landscape and I think about, biodiversity. It really is a lot of individuals that are, kind of acting in terms of their own, their own drives, their own interests, but together, they form a community that really thrives. And, boiling down really big picture, ideas like we've been talking about today, just like you say, defining what a sustainable landscape is. But boiling it down to action is where I think if we ask ourselves each individually with what we're doing in our communities and our organizations, what can we do over the next 12 months, 6 months? At Cherrylake, for example, we're doing the ground cover trials. I've talked a lot about it on the chat and with others, but we're looking at, okay, let's take some different plants that we don't know much about yet. At least I don't know much about, whether it's frog fruit or twin flower or perennial peanut or lemon bacoba, or there's just a long list. We're going to find out, right? We're going to start growing them and we're going to start planting them and see where it leads. Perennial peanut, also an excellent one.
Yeah.
We just hired a leader of sustainability initiatives, and I'm really excited about this because it puts the focus right where it needs to be in terms of giving us the resource that we require to do the R&D, to do the trials, and go beyond that. So we'll be working with the City of Groveland on their landscape code. City of Groveland, by the way, is a sponsor of this event, and couldn't be more thrilled and thankful to all of our sponsors. Working with Lake County, our locals, our local municipalities, and I think that I probably would run out of energy trying to reach everyone. But if all of us individually, just kind of look around your network and then see, okay, what can we do?
And there are, I'm glad you brought up the issue about the water, because there's, and some issues even on the app talking about, kind of the biodiversity versus the water. If we're talking about biodiversity, why aren't we talking about water? And then we're talking about water. Why aren't we talking about biodiversity?
It's everything.
And I think we do see that those are linked. And Florida does have great programs, like Florida Friendly is just such a great program. And we know that it's something that needs to be brought to bear. At the same time, we see developments being built every day that don't really embrace Florida Friendly or aren't really leading to the outcomes we want to see. So what I do like about the collaborative, I think brings its real strength, is that you get all those people in the room together who are dealing with each piece of it, whether it's the developer, whether it's the code, writing the codes. Codes are key because they kind of guide the whole direction of things. So, that's certainly not my area of expertise, but it's something that sets the tone and the guide in the direction for things. So I think that's really important.
And codes that are embraced and enforced. A code is only as good as its enforcement.
That's true, yeah.
And that's education again, making sure that all of the employees, the commissioners, understand the importance and the value of the code. So.
I think it's interesting that it is such a complex topic with so many, so many layers. But we do have within this group of people, not just the steering committee, but all of the attendees. And I think you can go through the Whova app and see who's attending. It's just a phenomenal group of people with a lot of different areas of expertise. So you have, for example, some people are interested in soil health and compost, right? One of our sponsors is Life Soils. They're doing amazing work on compost. And Pierce and his team is working with them to do some validations. And I think it's at Top of the World and in the villages. Esplanade, actually in Claremont, where they're applying this compost. So here we have, okay, that's kind of niche. We want to know about compost. There's a group of people who are really getting into that very deeply. We're going to be looking at ground covers. You're looking at codes, and beyond that, we have. Well, you were talking about the complexities of pollinator gardens. Something I want to talk to you more about.
Which is our entry point for so many people. The bees and the butterflies are that entry topic that will get homeowners involved and engaged.
That gets back to really Jeff. Jeff Vandermeer gave such a great talk because, of course, he's a writer and he's going to pull on our kind of moral, emotional, ethical groundings, which is really what is important to most people. It's really it's got to be on some kind of gut level. And that is where you can pull people in, is the bees and the butterflies and things that they can wrap their heads around. So I think we can contribute a lot in that direction too. I'm personally, that's not really my background, but because we're a bee campus now, I have undergraduate students and a graduate student that's going to look at urban pollinator communities, and we can generate some of that data and some of the information on what's out there and why it's important and spread that word around, because I think think it is something that resonates with people. And I'm talking K through 12 through everybody. There's ways to reach on that
garden
level.
clubs, all of that.
Generally more so than water, because people might care about water from a moral imperative, but they don't feel about their water like they feel about
a butterfly or teaching a grandchild about monarchs. I do also think with this collaborative, the timing is right. We're at a really crucial time in Florida. I know right now DEP are developing green infrastructure programs to roll out across the state. There's tremendous interest in, we really have to do things differently. Resiliency is becoming an issue in Florida, and we need to work together and figure out a new way of doing things quickly.
And then I think we're hearing that message, this kind of urgency of we have issues that require action, and you're hearing it from unlikely places or places you wouldn't have heard it from before. And that tells me that we are going to see progress. And this message that Jeff had, which just absolutely blew me away, I've just loved it. I think I've listened to it 3 times already. But the idea that we have to have this unstoppable optimism about the topic, because that's the energy that will carry us forwards, and he does it so much better than I would know how to do it. But to make it relatable to the average Floridian, to turn this not into an industry topic, to not speak of it in technical terms, but to really address the human and emotional connections that we have to nature. And because ultimately we do need to inspire changes in social perceptions. And one of the things we would like to do at Cherrylake is work towards creating a sustainable landscapes education and outreach center, maybe involving some retail and garden center or some demonstration gardens and agri-tourism experience. That's coming along in part because there's just so much growth and development that's popping up around the farm. But that's also an opportunity to bring people onto an active farm and to show them examples, just like you're doing, to show people examples.
Exactly.
And those unique audiences, it's something Southwest Florida Water Management District helped me with a couple of years ago, was developing a training for realtors in how to sell a home with a sustainable landscape. In this case, it was Florida Water Star. The realtor knows there's a plaque and there's some certificate, but they didn't know what was different. So bringing them outside and showing them what efficient sprinkler heads look like, showing them why the beds are bigger, what the irrigation controller, why it was different, and just light bulbs were going off, and they're like, we can sell this. So it's trying to think of all of these audiences who we need to bring to the table. So I think that's another function of the collaborative, to think about who do we need to educate about the timeliness and the imperative. And maybe COVID has been a really good thing in terms of we are all home and in touch with our backyards. We're hearing the mowing, and I have observed from my home on my street, 90% of the traffic during the day is the maintenance services. The yard, the mowing, the chemicals, a few school buses going by, but that is a huge industry that we need to bring along with us, and teaching them how they can manage sustainable landscapes, because the majority of people are not taking care of their own yards.
No, and it's a big transition that we're going to have to make, because if you look at a conventional landscape and how it's managed, and we do some landscape maintenance as well, and it's it's very regimented. It's very repeatable. You want to be able to use repeatable practices and processes to create a lot of efficiency in how we use this mechanized equipment to go through a landscape. And every place we go, we want to be able to basically treat it the same. And it's this amazing drive towards efficiency. If you look at it strictly from the standpoint of lean operations, it's fascinating, but that's not going to cut it. When it comes to a sustainable landscape, it's different. And that's not to say that we can't, train our landscape companies and empower entrepreneurs and empower new businesses to come in and provide these unique services.
We did, that is something I thought about because there's some folks up north that have been working on this kind of ecological landscaping approach for the past 10 years or so. Some organizations even, and they give workshops, and they're in Massachusetts, and they're in Maryland, and Florida is so different. We don't really have that down here now. The ideas transfer, but the actuality doesn't transfer. For example, one of the things we suffer from is year-round weeds that you don't suffer from up there, which is a huge issue on some of these native landscapes. So I think there is an opportunity to create that market, and I do think that sometimes the landscape industry can feel threatened by this change, because we're not going to be able to use pesticides, we're not going to be able to use fertilizer, which is not what anyone's saying, but we have to do things differently.
Yeah, I don't think the other market is going away, right?
It's not going away.
We're going to see both of these, coexisting.
Exactly. And that market, the existing one, can change, because if it's a matter of just changing some of the practices or changing the materials, and then a new one can come in that can maybe address this. But in part, if we get the new designs to come in, the idea that you can have more sustainable landscapes that are kind of managed the same way, where the folks that are coming in to do the maintenance, who are hired to do that, don't really have to change their routines that much. Just the palette they're working with is different. Is got to be part of the game. That's kind of why, like Jeff was talking about, we shouldn't be having arguments we were having 20 years ago. Maybe we still need to have those arguments, but we really have to move forward with what we've got. And I agree the timing is really good right now. Florida has so many strengths and areas related to it, whether it's Florida friendly or our conservation lands, and all the efforts that are going on, these new developments that are taking place. What I like about outside, and why I think it has to kind of maintain that focus, is it connects the dots, because there are people who work in their little places, and then what outside does is hopefully we bring them together, because it's that cross-fertilization where it's going to be more apparent what's really possible, where can we really push the ball, where are we going to get the biggest bang for the buck. Well, you kind of have to have everybody in the room to know that.
Yeah, it's essential, it really is. And be thinking about who isn't at the table and how can we bring them in. Certain audiences are not so easy. The folks who run homeowner associations are a huge part of this solution for long-term sustainability, and how do we get to those and involve them in the discussion.
You were mentioning earlier that you had outreached.
Yeah, we launched a program.
And that people got really excited about it.
Yeah, we launched a 1-hour CEU training for community association managers, CAMs, who have to get their licensing and their certifications every year. So we have two programs. One is on stormwater systems. What are these things in your community and how do you maintain them? And the other is on irrigation. So the responses we've had are phenomenal, from CAMs being able to say, oh, now I understand the contract I'm supposed to be managing with the irrigation company, and I know what this means, and when they're telling me what they're doing, I now understand it. So I think that's an untapped area, is educating those folks.
I think even with IFAS, obviously having a very strong county extension agencies, or even with UCF, our potential to do that they could also do workshops and get CEUs for the kind of things we talked about today.
And I think they have something for CAMs
Maybe they
too.
do.
Yeah.
Oh, for what?
For CAMs, Community Association Managers.
Oh, okay,
they're the ones who HOA boards hire to run communities. And they're not typically, they don't have a background in landscaping.
Yes, you did. So does the University of Florida have some programs where
they have some new 1-hour online trainings. Yeah. Ours were going to be in person, but now they're online this year. But they will be in person.
That's another way to reach an audience that might take the education, the information, and actually think about ways they can apply it in their own communities.
So I think if nothing else, the collaboration needs to continue to be a collaboration, not to silo everyone again, to keep the conversation going, the training going, and just getting everyone in a room when we're
breaking out of the silos. I think that's, if there's a simple idea that is at the heart of this collaboration, is let's break out of the silos, because these are complex problems that will not be solved by individuals, and they will not be solved working in silos. But here we have, I think, a great start, and we're going to keep the Whova app going. A lot of you guys, everybody obviously found the app because you couldn't stream the program without it. But this app will be active, so you can continue to chat. You can go and look up different attendees. Attendees can maybe identify in their profile their areas of interest, expertise, regions. And when you have a project or you have an opportunity, reach out to the people that you feel are best suited to collaborate with you, so that we're not trying to solve these problems on our own. And then let's come back and share these examples of things that have been accomplished as we, one project at a time, have a success, or even a qualified success. Anything that moves the needle forward, let's talk about it, share it. We could do that on the app, and then we're going to have programs ongoing in 2021, and that's where we're going to pick up some of the original workshops that we had planned for the 2-day event, and we're just make those available. So I think we're going to have a couple webinars. We'll do the code writing workshop, which Deirdre, you had prepared.
We have an excellent team. We have an agenda. We're ready to go on that with some great experts.
Yeah, hopefully that one can be live. We'll see. We'll see what the world looks like in March. If it can't be live, it'll be virtual. But we're going to do the code writing workshop. I think, Patrick, you and I need to get back together and pick up the what we were calling the alternative top 40.
Yes. And to revisit that.
Yeah. Let's get a really good list of solid plants. And more than just listing the plants, let's get some really useful information on, okay, how do they grow? Where do they grow? What's the maintenance?
Exactly.
What do people need to know?
Absolutely. I think we had a good list, and I've shared it with some people who have asked for it in the horticultural industry. Well, what is that list you've got? We have the list.
Yeah.
We need to refine it, but we also need to add those columns of where to use it, how to use it, what to avoid, what to look out for. And that'll be a really useful. People have asked for it. People want to contribute to it as well. But I think that that gets you from your end of the
nursery production,
nursery production end, get people familiar with what will work well and what designers might be easily able to use in certain contexts.
I think that'd be really tangible.
Really tangible. Yeah. And so if we can produce that and have a really good layout on it and get some feedback on it, I think that'll be a very useful beginning. Because people also say, what are you talking about?
An asterisk by all the plants we know will do better in longer, hotter, wetter summers.
Yes, yes.
As we're seeing.
It's a wet summer.
Yeah.
So we'll do a workshop around this list. We're going to have project tours that will try to spread out across the state, so that people around the state can convene conveniently and experience some really interesting tours where we'll see different sustainable landscapes and talk to the people who created them and talk to the people who are maintaining them. We've got a tour of UNF that we're planning, which I think is going to be fantastic. Shout out to Rhonda Gracie for helping me with that. And then we're going to do a tour in my neighborhood. In fact, you guys might get to come to my house, but we're going to go to the Florida Scrub Jay Trail, Green Isle Gardens Nursery. Thank you for the plants right back here. And EnviroPro Tree Farm, where Lauren and I, we live right next door. And we've been kind of doing what Jeff was talking about, rewilding the yard. Talk about something that you can do just in your backyard is start with this process of learning about these plants just by doing. So anyway, so that's a tour in Central Florida. And we have a list of other places that we're thinking about creating tours. So it's all going to be a matter of the engagement, the continued interest that you guys show. And if we are able to be successful putting on these tours, workshops, we're going to keep it up. These videos are going to go online, and so you'll be able to revisit them, and more importantly, you can share them with people that maybe weren't tuned in today, but that might really benefit or enjoy the message. And you can go onto the outsidecollab.com website, and you can subscribe so that you'll be notified and posted of what we have coming up. But those are the things that we can do as organizers. But the real magic is what you guys can do. Just reach out, work with your colleagues, think about things that you can do locally in your community to take action. And I believe that the timing is right, like you said, Deirdre, and I'm really excited about the future because it's very near and dear to my heart, and I want to see sustainable landscapes in Florida. So,
Thank you for everything you've done. This has been a really nice gathering, and I think you've started a movement.
well, let's see.
So,
Let's
yeah.
make the movement move. Thank you, guys.